The following is a 2-minute animated discussion about the cost of putting Bernie Sanders' proposals into effect. The question is, are Bernie Sanders' proposals too expensive?
No. Doing what Bernie proposes is much less expensive than the status quo.
I disagree. Bernie Sanders is not just a big spending liberal. His agenda is not just about money. It's also about control. His plan for paying for college with a tax on Wall Street trades would mean colleges would run by government rules.
Are you aware that 3/4 of college students today attend public universities financed largely by state governments? And even students attending elite private universities benefit from federal tax subsidies flowing to wealthy donors?
Meg Whitman's recent $30 million donation to Princeton, for example, was 1/3 paid for by the federal government because she could deduct the donation from her taxable income. Notwithstanding all this government largesse, colleges are not run by government rules.
The real problem is too many young people still can't afford a college education. The move toward free public higher education, that began in the 1950s with the GI Bill and was extended in the 1960s by leading public universities, was reversed by the shrinking state budgets of trickle-down economics in the 1980s.
Tuition has skyrocketed in recent years as states slashed education spending. It's time to resurrect that earlier goal.
Besides, the biggest threats to academic freedom these days are not coming from government. They're coming as conditions attached to funding from billionaires and big corporations that's increasing as public funding drops. When the Charles Koch Foundation pledged $1.5 million to Florida State University's economics department, for example, it stipulated that a Koch-appointed advisory committee would select professors and undertake annual evaluations. The Koch brothers now fund 350 programs at over 250 colleges and universities across America. It's just part of the billionaires' campaign to turn Americans into useful cogs in their machinery.
But Bernie Sanders' plan for a single-payer system would put healthcare under the control of government.
Healthcare is already largely financed through government subsidies, only they're flowing to insurance companies that are now busily consolidating into corporate behemoths. Anthem's purchase of Cigna will make it the largest health insurer in America. Aetna is buying Humana, creating the second largest, with 33 million members. Why should anyone suppose these for-profit corporate giants will be less controlling than government? What we do know is that they are far more expensive than a single-payer system.
But, according to the Washington Post, Bernie Sanders' health care plan would cost $15 trillion over 10 years.
Single-payer systems in other rich nations have proven cheaper than private for-profit health insurers because they don't spend huge sums on advertising, marketing, executive pay, billing, lobbying, and financing political campaigns to obtain preferential legislation and weaken regulation. So even if expanding Medicare to cover everyone would cost $15 trillion over 10 years, Americans as a whole would save much more than that.
But I trust the market more than the government.
You're overlooking the fact that the market could not exist without government. Government sets the rules by which the market operates, such as whether health insurance companies should be allowed to consolidate even further, or how much of a charitable tax deduction wealthy donors to private universities should receive, and whether they should get the deduction if they attach partisan conditions to their donations.
The real choice is not between government and the market. It's between a system responsive to the needs of most Americans, or one more responsive to the demands of the super-rich, big business, and Wall Street, whose economic and political power has grown out of all proportion over the last 3 decades. That is why the logic of Bernie Sanders' ideas depends on the political changes he seeks.
Well, it doesn't matter anyway, because, even if Bernie Sanders could become president, he would never be able to get his ideas through Congress.
No, you're wrong. If Bernie Sanders is elected president, American politics will have been altered, reducing the chokehold of the moneyed interest over the public agenda.
Don't you see the populism that is fueling Bernie's campaign? steadily gaining strength and conviction.
Other politicians, as well as political reporters, ignore this upsurge at their peril.
There is one person who tells it like it is. This train is on its way to the White House. Get on board.
This information is available at the Facebook page of Robert Reich of the University of California. That's Robert Reich. REICH. Go take a look.